Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Can you all hear me? So welcome to the second day of Asian Wetland Symposium. My name is Yami Leung, who is in charge of SIPA program of WWF Hong Kong. It is definitely my great pleasure and honor to be invited as the person to chair the section this afternoon. Okay, I hope you all enjoyed the first day of program yesterday. Before I pass the time to the first speaker today, I'm asked to share something with you guys by the organizer. So let me share my screen with you all. It is about some housekeeping issue. Can you all see my screen? Yes, this is a couple of warm reminders before we begin our section this afternoon. Number one, for the presenters, please remember to mute yourself unless you are speaking. So everyone will be clear to listen to the presenter to share his or her stories. For the participants, please leave your questions through the chat box. Throughout the presentation period, please feel free to leave your questions to the chat box on Zoom. So every presenters will be given 15 minutes of presentation and followed by 5 minutes of Q&A. 15 minutes of presentation followed by 5 minutes Q&A from the floor. So please be reminded to better manage your times so as to avoid overrunning. So the last part will wrap up by me. I would like to. So when we look at the program this afternoon, so I can say that we cover a diverse topics concerning wetland conservation, management, and restorations. So the topics actually cover the entire spectrum of wetland management, from innovations of wetland management to mobilizing or empowering communities to support wetland co-management. So we have a diverse topics. So I do look forward to the good stories from each of you. So without any delay, I would like to pass the time to the first presenter today. So who is Aaron Julius DeSineris? I hope my pronunciation is correct. Aaron is going to share with us some stories about the creative approaches in ecological waste management in a circular economy model for wetlands conservation. So I'm now passing the time to you. The floor is yours, Aaron.
So is it clear now? Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. Oh. So good afternoon. I am pleased to present on behalf of my team and co-authors, Kevin Serona, Catriona de Venadera, Amy Lecciones, and Jiangsu Yu, our study entitled The Creative Approaches in Ecological Waste Management in a Circular Economy Model for Wetlands Conservation. So my presentation is divided into 6 parts, beginning with the introduction and background of the study, a description of the research methodology used, then moving to the wetlands management and regulatory framework in the Philippines. I will then discuss waste pollution and wetlands in the Philippines, and then the creative interventions being implemented to address these. Of course, I end my presentation with some conclusions. So I begin the introduction on wetlands. Since we are all well versed in wetlands, I will not anymore discuss the particular definitions of wetlands, nor its immense value to human society, as these are all things we can generally agree on. Instead, what faces us are that wetlands are neglected despite providing a wealth of provisioning, regulatory, cultural, and supporting services valuable to human societies. We have experienced and seen that land use change and pollution from human activities have destroyed and degraded much of the wetlands, not only in the Philippines, but around the world. Indeed, urbanization, industrial development, and pollution have become the largest threats to wetlands. And in particular, plastic pollution, which has worsened, especially in developing economies over the last decade. So the Philippines is endowed with numerous and beautiful wetlands. The last inventory by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources counted 314 inland wetlands and 2,487 river systems, which include 221 lakes, 14 marshes and swamps, 9 peatlands, 39 water storage, and 31 ponds. However, from 1920 to 1980, over a span of 60 years, about 300,000 hectares, or 2/3 of all mangroves in the Philippines, were lost to development and pollution. This problem continues as water bodies in the country also receive 2.2 million metric tons of organic pollution, to where about 12% of the country's 421 rivers have already been declared biologically dead. Millions of Filipinos rely on ecosystem services provided by wetlands throughout the country. Thus, the study looked into how does the circular economy promote wetland conservation in the Philippines. So here, the research methodology looked into first a literature review, a desk review of concepts, perspectives, approaches, models, and practices on circular economy, ecological solid waste management, water pollution, wetland conservation, and 4Rs, or refuse, reuse, reduce, and recycle. So successful programs and projects implemented in the Philippines, spearheaded by non-government organizations, partnering with government agencies, private sector, and communities contributing to creative approaches in relation to take, make, consume, recycle, circular economy model were used under a case selection to illustrate innovative approaches to engage communities working on wetland conservation and solid management. Here, 2 projects by the Society for the Conservation of Philippine Wetlands were used as case study to show wetland conservation practice that supports the circular economy. The first is the Sachet Recovery Project, and the second is the Active, Clean, and Bountiful Rivers Program. So, apologies, I skipped. So the conceptual framework that we constructed to integrate wetland conservation into the circular economy model, addressing ecological waste, was adopted from the European Commission's definition of circular economy. Circular economy systems keep the added value in products for as long as possible and eliminate waste. They keep resources within the economy when a project has reached the end of its life, so that they can be productively used again and again, and hence create further value. 2 case studies showcase sustainable production and consumption practices reflected in creative approaches for communities towards closing the loop in wetlands conservation and ecological waste management in the Philippines. So moving on to wetland management and regulatory framework, in the Philippines, there's no single national law on wetlands, nor any overarching national level policy. Instead, a combination of legislation and policy has acted to safeguard the ecological integrity of wetlands in the country. This slide shows down these laws and policies, although these are not exhaustive. Importantly are international agreements such as the Ramsar Convention and the adoption of Sustainable Development Goals. Also noteworthy are 2 pending bills in the Philippine Congress, the Wetlands Conservation Act and the National Water Act. Major threats to the management of wetlands in the Philippines, according to the DNR, or the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, include institutional capacity of government bodies, an increase in land use conversion, resource use and exploitation, domestic, industrial, and agricultural pollution, and climate change. Alongside with this are environmental and social issues associated with wetland management, such as overlapping and often conflicting policies on land use, illegal water use, unsustainable aquaculture practices, climate change vulnerabilities, and institutional weaknesses. In the Philippines, we have a lot of waste pollution in wetlands. Metro Manila itself produces 9,213 tons of waste per day. 52% of this is biodegradable, 41% is recyclable, and 7% is residuals. The average collection rate is 80%, and the remaining uncollected waste are left on streets and in waterways. Almost 164 million sachets are discarded daily, which is equivalent to 600 pieces of sachet per capita per year. Therefore, plastic pollution has indeed worsened, particularly in the Philippines. This worsening has turned into an epidemic, a plastic pollution epidemic. Proliferation of single-use plastic like shampoo, plastic bags, and others are ending up in the water bodies. Here you see a picture on the right that is along the coastline of Metro Manila. It's full of single-use plastics. Now, single-use plastics are convenient because they are affordable. They're in the sizes which the consumers can afford. Unfortunately, the Philippines is among those which contribute to half of the plastic waste in the ocean. So this is brought about by development patterns such as rapid urbanization, growing middle class, and a large and young workforce. This cost of development has turned 42% of rivers into a degraded status and 12% as biologically dead. Therefore, we need to look at new ways to address plastic pollution and a change in development paradigms. Otherwise, more wetlands will be degraded or destroyed. There is a push towards looking into development patterns which are green. These types of development patterns protect and enhance natural ecosystems, ensure continuing provision of ecological services, and looks at the cities and suburbs and countryside not as a single a system that is alone, but rather an evolving system together with nature, whose goal is the restoration, protection, and conservation of wetlands and critical habitats. Here we look at what we call the cowboy economy versus the spaceman economy. So the world's economy is structured primarily along a linear understanding of production and consumption, where products are made from raw materials consumed and disposed of, as a cowboy economy driven by throughput. Now, how much can you produce? This approach proved detrimental to nature because of its extractive nature, prohibitive costs associated with waste generation, collection, transportation, disposal, and treatment, and the environmental impact of where all of these things produced goes, the solid waste facilities. So circularity is needed to close the loop in waste management and ensure that end-of-life materials are reused and recycled with less input of natural resources. And we call this the spaceman economy, which focuses on the nature, extent, quality, and complexity of the total capital stock. So three key principles embedded in a circular economy are designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use. A simple definition of circular economy states that it is an alternative to a traditional linear economy where resources produced are kept in repeatedly. So we want to extract their maximum value with a view of recovering and regenerating products and materials at at the end of their service life. So one perspective in the circular and resource consumption, where products have to be designed, distributed, and consumed in a manner that facilitates reuse and recycling. So the circular economy goes beyond recycling and into strong sustainability that touches on limiting resource utilization and looking at natural limits that constrain human action and enable policy and regulatory environments. So in the Philippines, regular interventions, or let's say standard interventions to reduce pollution in water bodies and wetlands using the circular economy approach include enforcement of existing law. So this is the ecological solid waste management law, where locals or the local government units passed ordinances to ban single-use plastics, packable bags in supermarkets. Nationally, the passage of the National Solid Waste Management Commission Resolution number 1363 banned the use of single-use plastic products in government offices. However, there are more creative interventions that are community-based practices in wetland conservation. Here we look at those coming from the CLEAR program. So the CLEAR program, or the Conservation of Laguna de Bay's Environment and Resources, is a tripartite partnership between government, Laguna Lake Development Authority, a private sector company, Unilever Philippines, and a non-government organization, the Society for the Conservation of Philippine Wetlands, as part of a commitment to the International Living Lakes Network. And what does the CLEAR program do? The CLEAR program conducts ecological camps and youth networks to increase the awareness of wetland conservation in the youth. They have done ecological camps, the training manual so that others may conduct these eco camps on their own. And the experiential learning curriculum included in that eco camp includes lectures, field exposure, community interaction, and importantly, action planning. So the eco camp syllabus includes a module on ecological waste management. So during this ecological camp, the students, after doing exposure and contact with their community, come up with their own projects. And in one of the, so it is a community-based, of course, community-based project, which focuses on plastic sachets. Since the ecological camp is based on the school, the students themselves initiated the project with support from the school itself and the local government. What they do here is that eco-campers, what we call the attendees to the ecological camp, collect empty plastic sachets of various personal products at school. They are stored in a school-based waste facility to a third-party entity. This third-party entity processes the plastic wastes into schools. Okay. So 1.6 tons of sachets from over 20 participating high schools over a 5-year period have been collected by these eco campers. Okay. And the papers are a combination of shredded sachet and concrete. And of course, they are distributed back to the schools for use as construction materials, either as finishing for pathways or others. So this is a picture of the pavers themselves. So all of these plastic sachets, these tons of plastic sachets are no longer polluting the waterways. And the children themselves are part of the team program themselves. And the Clear Youth Network is a gathering annually of the representatives of the eco camp groups. And here they report what they have been doing. So the students here report on their sachet recovery project. They tell each other how to do it, how to scale it up. And this has become a vehicle to spread this project to other high schools and schools around Laguna de Bay. Another community-based wetland conservation practice is the active, clean, and bountiful rivers towards ending plastic pollution in rivers. Unlike the sachet recovery project, this now includes all plastic flexibles. No? This project was initiated by municipalities themselves, not anymore the schools, and 16 municipalities have joined the program. Unilever provides 20 US cents worth of Unilever products for every kilo of plastic collected. How does this work? So household these are at Lilio. So Lilio is a municipality which has a larger MRF compared to the others, and they have volunteered to become the centralized area. Unilever Philippines hauls the plastic waste to Villar-Sipag, another NGO, which has the capability to transform these waste into school chairs, and the school chairs are donated back to the community. So what we found is that barangay or village level coordination has increased this collection. So instead of making it a regional, it's making it a village level effort has increased the collection for plastic flexibles. Now the schools found that the chairs are sturdy and long lasting. On the right, you can see the pictures of the school chairs themselves. So these are made out of. So these creative interventions, let's look at two of them side by side. So the recovery program and the ACB reverse community is the youth, 12 to 14 years old, and it focuses on plastic sachets. So the action plan is done by youth who present them to the school authorities and are backed up by the LGUs. Therefore, the bulk of collection is from the school. And it is a school. ACB Rivers, on the other hand, they looked at looking into additional partners so they can synergize each of their strengths. This may include Villar CPAG, which can turn the plastics into chairs, Unilever, who provides the incentives, and the LGUs who are able to mobilize the households. Since it's a larger waste still included. The bulk of the collection is from the community, and
Aaron, you're mute. You have mute yourself. Seems your internet connection is not stable. So maybe you can, go back to your slide you just present to us.
all right, hello, yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's okay now.
Yes.
So your voice was broken down in the previous few minutes.
All right.
Yes,
so
please go ahead with your minute. Yeah.
Yes. How much minutes do I have left?
How about 2 minutes?
All right. So
last
the
10 minutes, is that okay?
programs illustrate the benefits of circular economy as a conservation strategy, especially how the youth can be part of that strategy for wetlands conservation. So developing creative approaches and engaging the community towards ecological waste is a pathway into a circular economy. So some of the conclusions that we would like to present is having a multi-sectoral nature of collaboration. As you can see from the diagrams of how the products and the plastic waste was integrated into another product, we need different actors, from the youth themselves, the important part of the youth, to the LGUs, the households, private sector, and others. And cooperative arrangements must be both vertical and horizontal, especially that they should be very clear amongst each of the partners. So plastic pollution in wetlands can be addressed by novel waste management through a circular economy pathway. You must highlight the role of players or stakeholders at the grassroots level in terms of mobilizing logistics, establishing and maintaining infrastructures. And localized and community-based management programs remain the foundation of good governance in wetland ecosystems of developing economies like the Philippines. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed that presentation.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Thanks for your inspiring sharing on your waste management system in response to the circular economy concept. So please feel free to leave your questions to the chat box if you have any questions you want to ask Aaron about his presentations. So far, I cannot see any question, but in the meantime, I would like to ask Aaron one questions. So thanks for sharing two amazing examples, showing how your concept is being applied at local levels. So it is amazing because it involves multi-sectors, including local community, schools, and also corporate sectors. But seems that one important sector, which is government, is missing in your examples. Can you share a little bit with us what did the government do in your two case example?
Yes. So for the sachet recovery project, there's an example of a government municipality called Mabitak, which has institutionalized the ecological camp. And as we know, the ecological camp is the vehicle where the sachet recovery project was born. This just shows that the governments in the area found it useful and have put their money into these projects themselves. For the active Clean and Bountiful Rivers project, where they convert plastic flexibles into plastic chairs, it was the local government units themselves that organized this. So I think that there is a serious commitment and dedication into trying to have that culture of getting all these plastic flexibles out of wetlands, out of the environment, and turning them into other productive uses. So and one of the things that we also noticed was that once the coordination was brought to the village level through the local government units, the collection increased.
Yeah.
So I guess that could, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, good. Very good to hear that government has some level of involvement in this project, which is very important. So I've got one question from the chat box. So one participant asked the questions: do you have considered COVID plastic waste? So I guess the question is about how the impact of COVID have influenced the plastic waste management system. I guess this is the questions want to ask.
Yeah. Well, as you know, the eco camps themselves, the sachet recovery project itself was hinged on the students, right? And since the COVID started, none of the camps have continued because of the lockdowns. And on the other end, the collection of plastic flexibles, the LGUs just collect the plastic flexibles as they arrive. Of course. Well, what are the COVID plastic waste? This can be the face masks and also the face shields.
Yeah.
Right now, I have not yet heard of the LGUs particularly focusing on that, but I'm sure they are collecting those as well as we speak. And probably, I guess that's something that we should look into, further studies on how face masks, face shields affect that process, especially if they're able to, the machines that turn them into pavers or either school chairs can accept those types of plastic waste.
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think this is not just happening in Philippines, actually across the entire world, because during COVID, we have generated lots of different ways which have to be managed. This is a big topic to be discussed in future. Thank you very much, Aaron. Thanks for your inspiring presentations. Now we have to move on to the next presentation because consideration of the time. So our next presentation, let's give a big hand to Aaron first. Thanks for your presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, the next presenter is also coming from Philippines. So she is called Amy Lessinonis. So Amy is a good friend of really Asia and also very active in Asian wetland conservation and management. So today's her topics is about empowerment. So she wants to share her stories on empowering farming communities for managing agricultural wetlands. So now I pass the time to Amy. The floor is yours, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you for that very kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I just would like to share with you first and foremost that right now there's a big thunderstorm going on in my area. That's why
Be careful.
internet is really acting up. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, so today I'm going to share with you a story about a very modest initiative on how we were able to capacitate or empower a local rice farming community so that they can manage their agricultural wetlands sustainably. So my presentation is organized. The flow of my presentation is as you can see on the screen. I will not go through them anymore in the interest of time. Suffice to say that it just covers the flow of a traditional project. Okay, so as a backgrounder, let me just tell you first about the Candaba wetlands. This is the subject of my story. So Candaba Wetlands is a 30,000 hectare floodplain straddling 3 provinces that has been cultivated mostly as rice paddies. Okay, so you can see the view there with a single mountain. That's the Mount Arayat National Park. It is a key biodiversity area and an important bird area within the East Asian Australasian Flyway. The Candaba swamp continues to be drained or converted into wet agriculture, severely limiting habitat for waterfowls. And other areas have been converted into fish ponds, creating discontinuous patches in vegetation cover. Now, these wetlands are mostly privately owned, thus posing a peculiar concern for conservation. Let me go back. The story started when about 6 years ago, we were doing a reforestation project in this mountain. This is Mount Arayat. Because of the shallowing of this wetland, we were hoping we could help reduce the erosion and siltation coming from the mountain. So we were traveling for 5 years, going back and forth to that mountain, passing through this floodplain. And in 2015, it looked like this area. However, 2 years after, you will see that this entire stretch of land on either side of the highway where we pass, these were mostly rice lands, were now reclassified as industrial and commercial zones. So this and this are the same sites actually, only on a different angle. And we learned that farmers are enticed to sell their farms due to declining income and tempting offers from developers, particularly logistic companies where they build really big, huge warehouses and also housing subdivisions. Other issues and threats in the area include, let me just show you this slide, this picture rather. If you will see this line of trees here, this used to be a bird sanctuary, but privately owned. It's locally declared a bird sanctuary, but privately owned. And now it reverted back to its owner and has been sold to another owner, and we are hearing that it's not going to be a bird sanctuary anymore. And there are also a lot of duck farms and poultry farms in the area. And this one, I took this photo because this person here is actually doing electrofishing. Yeah, and the poor guy doesn't even know that it's really bad. When we talked to him, he really wanted to have a picture with us pa. Yeah, he didn't know that what he was doing is really, really bad for the environment. And of course, a lot of siltation and water pollution in the area. So the overview of the project is, it is really an attempt to conserve a portion of the huge 30,000 hectares which has been experiencing both natural and anthropogenic threats. We were hoping that saving a portion of this vast wetland will lead to conservation policies and initiatives on a larger scale. So our strategy was to generate science-based information to initiate support for its possible designation as probably a natural heritage site, to showcase traditional farming practices, and to offer sanctuary for birds as a strategy for conservation. So the theory of change for this is in three parts. That would be characterizing the project site by identifying ecosystem functions, values, and services, so that we can prepare a management plan through participatory approach with the local community. And then part of that management plan should be capacitating the farmer community so that they can manage the wetland wisely, contribute to food security, and generate additional income. Okay. So the funding for this project came from Ramsar Regional Center, East Asia. And we are very thankful for the partners that worked with us here. The Makagatal Irrigators Association, this is our farmer partner. They own a contiguous 135 hectare of rice land in Barangay Paligi, municipality of Candaba, Pampanga, right smack in the middle of this big floodplain. The local government of Candaba, Ecosystems Research and Development Bureau of the DENR, the University of the Philippines at Los Baños, Agricultural Training Institute of the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Tourism, and the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Region 3. So for our approach and methodology, we did social preparation, site characterization, and of course, management planning, and then eventually empowering the community. Okay, for social preparation, we are very thankful that we were able to connect to the local government because they were the ones who connected us to this group of farmers who, when we talked to, were very willing to go to work with us in conserving their 135 hectare property. The 135 property is owned by about 70 people. Okay. And they are organized into an irrigators association. So we had a lot of exploratory meetings, explaining to them, courtesy calls to officials, an inception meeting just to level off where we're really going, and of course, community meetings, consultations, and workshops. So this site is about 50 kilometers north of Manila. So that's about just about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the traffic. And here, it is, as I said earlier, it is just right beside the former bird sanctuary. And this is how it looks like. During the dry season, you can see here, it looks like this during the dry season. During the wet season, it becomes a big lake, really. This whole thing gets flooded. Okay. And so we moved on to, we organized a team to characterize the wetlands. And these are the items or the parameters that we looked at. We did a survey of flora, entomofauna, macrofauna, avifauna, fishery, water quality measurements. We also did RAVIS to provide science-based information for the formulation of the management plan. And we will just breeze through this very quickly. So for flora assessment, let me just emphasize at this point that we did two sampling schedules, one during the dry season and one during the wet season. So in terms of flora, there were 36 plant species listed during an opportunistic survey of about 100 meters. And of course, since this is mainly an agricultural rice farming area, so rice is the most is the main cash crop. And during wet season, what you see are really just trees, since they are all inundated. Okay, and unfortunately, there is also a lot of water hyacinth in the area. So these are actual photos taken by our resident biologist. And in terms of avifauna, There were 42 bird species from 17 families and 2 endemics. So you can see here that majority of the birds are actually migratory. During dry season, we got 3,487 individuals, but only 242 during the wet season. And for fish, there was 1 native species observed, and the rest, there were 4 commercially important species and 1 exotic, the janitor fish. For entomofauna, 21 morphospecies were observed, single species of spider, and of course arthropods that observed typically in agro ecosystems. In terms of macrofauna, these were mostly based on interviews and literature, 13 species of mammals, 10 species of reptiles, and we were warned that there is actually a python in the area. Fortunately or unfortunately, we didn't see one. And for water quality assessment, the parameters measured were temperature, pH, DO, salinity, TDS, turbidity, conductivity, and ORT. Based on the results using the DENR criteria, the water quality for both dry and wet seasons passed Class C waters. Class C meaning it pertains to fishery, water for propagation and growth of fish and other aquatic resources.
Amy, I'm afraid you have to speed up because it's already
okay.
45. Yeah, thank you.
So these are the benefits that we get from there: the provisioning, regulating, supporting, and cultural. I won't go through it all of them. Suffice to say that with the characterization of the wetland plus the raw waste, we were able to come up with a wetland management plan with a vision, which is we translated this to English. Paligi wetland is a healthy wetland ecosystem providing ecological services and managed by empowered stakeholders with the objective to increase the productivity of the wetland to provide benefits to these stakeholders while improving its ecological character. One of the specific objectives is, the specific objectives, as you can see here, is to improve the ecological character, improve the economic condition of the farmers, and promote wise use by fostering the roles and responsibilities of local stewards. So based on that, we did a modified community livelihood assessment and product scanning, guided by the 3 Ps. This is, of course, the people, planet, and prosperity, and the guidelines issued on biodiversity-friendly enterprise. And we were able to come up with 2 interventions, which is bird watching guide training and the sustainable agricultural practices training. So these are photos from the training. This is the bird watching guides training. Okay. And this is for the sustainable agricultural practices training. And based on that, the lessons learned or the takeaways that we got from this project is that increasing awareness and capacitating communities promote cooperation and facilitates achievement of agreed goals and objectives. The support of local government unit, especially at the village level, is crucial to the success of the project. And knowing where and how to leverage resources and expertise of other agencies and organizations can augment limited funding. So that's how we were able to have all those trainings and all the other things that we did by tapping all the other agencies and their resources. And as a postscript, the SCPW and the community are making further efforts to solicit support for establishing a wetland center in the area to boost farm tourism, showcase traditional farming practices, and to offer sanctuary for birds as a strategy for its conservation. And our bird watching guides are already organized into an association registered with the Department of Labor and Employment. And we already have, in 2019, World Wetlands Day, we had a first farm tour where 21 media practitioners and bloggers experienced a farm tour activity. And this farm tour activity was featured in 4 national dailies. And we already launched the Paligi Wetland Center. These are the designs. And the Makagatal Irrigators Association, our partner farmers, was awarded the Wetland Heroes or Bayani ng Katubigan during the World Water Day celebration. And the SCPW is in the final stages of acquiring a grant to initiate the construction of the Paligi Wetland Center, the development of farm tourism in the area, and the restoration of agricultural wetlands. The project will start second quarter next year. So I would like to say thank you to my project team. And with that, thank you everyone for your indulgence.
Thank you very much, Amy. It is so exciting to see the changes of Candaba wetlands in the past few years. What an amazing job done by you and your partners. So we can hear very clearly the thunderstorm at the back of your house. It just seems like it's just sitting next to you. Hope everything is okay with you and you are staying safe at Philippines. So let's check chat box and see there's one questions to Amy. How do you stop or reduce conversion of wetlands to the cropland?
Can you say that again?
Amy, maybe I can say that again. How do you stop or reduce conversion of wetlands to the cropland? The cropland.
Oh, okay. That is okay. The thing here is actually there is a local national legislation that prevents the conversion of agricultural wetlands to some other land uses, but it's covered by some sort of a moratorium. After 7 years, they have to review it and see whether they can reclassify it. But the conversion of wetlands to agricultural lands in this area is very difficult to implement because at this point, most of the area here are already privately owned. And the limited government property in this area is classified as alienable and disposable. So it has to go through a very rigorous policy change, and we are hoping that small initiatives like this, if we can show to our policymakers that the benefits from wetlands that are ecologically intact is higher than if you convert it to some other use, I think that would be a very convincing argument. And that's the reason why we have 2 bills now in Congress, and hopefully that will address such issues.
Yeah, I believe your management plans can serve a very powerful driving force to change the policy in future. Maybe you can think about the future plans of your wetland management and see how the wetland site can become a model site in the future to multiply the impacts to the other wetlands. So thank you very much. Amy, thanks for inspiring presentations. So I do hope the example from Candaba wetlands can be useful for the other people managing other wetlands in the regions. So now I would like to pass the time to another speakers. We have already heard the stories from Philippines, right? We have Aaron and Amy told us 2 different stories at Philippines on different areas. Now, let's fly to another region, Sri Lanka. So we have Indoni Yanich. We are happy to have her to share her stories on one thing. It's about canal bank management. So the topics Indoni going to share with us is introducing environmentally sustainable canal bank restoration method to Koti Canal, Sri Lanka. So I hope my pronunciation is correct. Indoni, Koti Canals. So over to you, Indoni.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. And I'm Boan. I'm representing the Sri Lanka Land Development Corporation, and I'm Indoni Liyanage. And my team members are Ms. Isuri Dharma Soma, Dr. N.S. Wijeratna, Mr. ILC Arun, Mr. Talgaswatta, Mr. Kalahe, and Mr. Bandara. Our project is introducing environmentally sustainable canal bank restoration method to Kotte Canal, Sri Lanka. Moving to our presentation, Sri Lanka is a South Asian country and it is located in a Indian Ocean, and we have the city Colombo is our commercial and both administrative capital of Sri Lanka, and the total extent of the land area of the city Colombo is about 121.5 square kilometers, and it has wetland complex. It's about the extent about 19 square kilometers, which means 15.4% of the total land area. And in 2018, this city Colombo was designated as a Ramsar Wetland City, and we are honored to say that we are the first Ramsar capital city in the world. The main wetland type in our Colombo wetland canal system, wetland complex is, we have 47 kilometers long canal system, and it does the water management within the catchment area, like it does the storm water retention, groundwater replenishment like activities, and also this canal system provide multiple benefits and ecosystem services. It does reduce our city temperature, and we can use this canal system for our recreational activities, and it supports to the water-based transportation, and it helps to the livelihood activities, like some people doing fishing and some people are gathering flowers in these canal systems. And also it provides water for the urban agricultural work as well. Apart from the benefit, it has some threats in our wetlands, like some people are discharging their wastewater, and some people are disposing their solid waste to the canal system. And also some people do encroachments of the canal bank for their settlements. As well, some waterways are alternated, and one of the major issues we are facing recently is spreading of invasive species. Mainly water hyacinth are spreaded widely in our canal system, and we do continuous removal process to maintain our canal system. Another major issue we are facing is canal bank erosion. Some of the canal banks are being protected earlier by the gabion or a sheet pile wall. But the thing was, it is costly and it caused negative impact to the wetland environment because it disrupts the movement of the amphibians and reptiles through the waterways, in between the waterways and the land. Therefore, we proposed an alternative canal bank restoration method for the to restore the canal bank. It is very environmental friendly, and it is not it is less costly. And this method we called as canal soft banking method, and the initial implementation work we did to the Kotte Canal, Sri Lanka. Talking about the Kotte Canal, we have 2.91 kilometer length. Kotte Canal is a 2.91 kilometer length, and it flows through the Kotte wetland. It is one of the wetland which was declared under the Ramsar Wetland City of Colombo. And considering the besides of the canal bank, only 2.09 kilometers had been protected earlier either by the gabion or a wet masonry walls, but the remaining part not protected yet. Therefore, considering the erosion of these canal banks has become noticeable in recent past due to boat-induced wave load and the soil instability. As Sri Lanka Land Development Corporation, we did a pilot project to the restoration of canal banks in the Kotte Canal. As our pilot project, we did restore 100 meters length of the canal banks in Kotte Canal in between the period of August 2020 and the January 2021. You can see in here how Kotte Canal banks are eroded. Moving on to our objective, our first objective is to stabilize the canal banks with an ecologically safe and cost-effective alternative, and cost-effective and sustainable alternative. And the second objective is to enhance the aesthetic and ecosystem services provided by the banks in the Kotte Canal. In this canal bank restoration project, I previously talked, we called it as soft banking project. Mainly, we use two raw materials for this restoration project. The one type is coir product, another type is a cover crop. We use vetiver grass as a cover crop for this restoration project. Talking about the coir industry, Sri Lanka has a traditional coir fiber industry, and about 40,000 people are directly engaged in this industry, and about 400,000 people are indirectly and affected from this coir fiber industry. Talking about our coir product, it is made from coir fiber, and it has natural characteristic, like it has high water absorption and retention capacity, and it has great tearing strength, and it is biodegradable. Recently, many countries in the world use coir fiber as an excellent raw material for the soil erosion control, slope stabilization, drainage, and other horticultural applications. The use of coir products in Sri Lanka, we use to restore the canal banks in the Kotte Canal. This will help. This will provide a huge opportunity for our coir fiber industry, and it will enhance their trade within the local market as well. As I mentioned earlier, we use two major raw materials. One is coir product. The second one is the vetiver grass. And talking about the vetiver grass, it has a massively fine structured root system, and it is consist with a deep root system. Therefore, having a deep root system, it is extremely drought tolerant, and it is difficult to dislodge by a strong current. And also, this vetiver grass, especially roots, grow about 3 to 4 meters in deep and 2.5 meters in wide. And vetiver will reduce the rainfall runoff by 70% and the sediment by 90%. And also vetiver roots does water purification as well. It absorbs phosphates, nitrate, heavy metal like things, and also it does the soil stabilization. Talking about our methodology, first, we were identified what are the eroded canal banks in our Kotte Canal, and then we did the slope stabilization. First, we have the eroded canal banks are formed to a selected or a suitable gradient by using soil cutting and filling method. Then we level the slopes of the canal bank using the manual levelers. Then we did the coir product installation procedure, and coir products are fit to the canal bank using wooden pegs. And also then after installation of the coir product, we planted the vetiver grasses through the coir geotextile and the coir log. This is the drawing how it appears after the project implementation. As you can see in here, this canal bank, the vetiver grasses are planted through this canal bank. And also we have installed 2 coir logs for the toe of the canal bank. When we're talking about the procedure in detail, first we did slope preparation. Normally at first we prepared the eroded canal bank to a gradient of 1 to 2 and using soil cutting and filling method. Then this filled slope was leveled using a manual leveler. Because why we use manual leveler is we want to avoid the low infiltration due to the soil compaction. And also after then we add about 6 inches thick compost layer to increase the soil fertility of the canal bank. Then we install the coir products and wooden pegs to the canal bank. First of all, we make a trench about 6 inches wide and 6 inches deep in the top of the canal bank. And then we install our coir geotextile to the, we anchored our coir geotextile to the trench, and then the trench was backfilled and compacted. After then, this coir geotextile was rolled through the slope, and it was open edge was anchored by using another row of wooden pegs. Then the middle of the coir geotextile also anchored again, again using suitable wooden pegs, and spacing of the wooden pegs will be depend on the steepness of the canal bank. After then, we install 2 coir logs to the toe of the canal bank, where the water level is half to 2/3 of the coir rolls height. The reason that we use 2 coir logs to the toe of the canal bank is to reduce the boat-induced wave force. After installation of the coir product, especially coir logs, the ends of the adjacent coir logs were tied together using coir twines. For the implementation of the coir product, we use wooden pegs. We use Dipterocarpus selanicus hardwood pegs for the installation process because it has very good water resistant property. After installation of the coir product, we plant vetiver grasses through the coir geotextile and the coir log with the spacing of 1 feet between each. When a situation where the coir products and the vetiver grasses are away from the water, we need to provide a method of irrigation until young plants are well established. These are our expected results. The main purpose of using coir product is the initial soil control. Normally, these coir products will persist about 3 to 5 years. In that period, the vetiver grasses are growing through the slope, and its roots are growing in a deep, and it will stabilize the canal bank with an intensive native root structure substrate. These are the benefits from our project. This project will improve the canal bank stability in an environmental friendly manner, and it acts as a mini ecosystem, and also it provides habitat for the aquatic birds and other fauna. Especially, we did this project to enhance the movement of the reptiles and amphibians in between the land and the water, to enhance the movement between land and water. And also, as I told earlier, vetiver grass has ability to purify urban runoff, and also this soft banking system will improve the aesthetic beauty and reduce the stress level of the people, and it increase the urban green, and it has many economic benefits, and also it provides livelihood opportunities. Like we can use vetiver leaves for the oil extraction purpose as well. This is how this our canal bank will appear just after the planting, and just after 1 month how it appears, and after 2 months, and how after 3 months how the canal bank will appear. After 3 months of the project establishment, we have noticed that there was a natural regeneration was occurred. Therefore, we have observed some weed species like Ludwigia longifolia, Tridax procumbens, Vernonia cinerea like weed plants, and also we have found some butterfly species, dragonfly species, and damselfly species in the surrounding environment. At the future, we are expected to restore the remaining eroded canal banks in the Colombo Wetland Complex using this soft banking approach. And we are expected to enhance the aesthetic beauty and the water quality to a considerable level. Finally, we would like to acknowledge Tropico Lanka Private Limited for the supply of coir product for our initial implementation work as their CSR work. These are the references that we use for the preparation of this presentation. And thank you very much all for your kind attention to this presentation.
Thank you very much, Angeline. What an good stories on using natural products to solve conservation problems. So to me, it is always, which is the best approach for nature conservation, is actually the nature itself, right? So it is very smart to use coral fiber and the glass to do the canal bank restoration works. So I've got one question in the chat box. I can read out to you, Indani. Use coral mist will open more work opportunity for people to struggle from COVID outbreak if applied to other areas. However, could this project implement for vast area, which means the project you guys are doing right now, can it be multiplied to other areas in Sri Lanka or other countries?
Yeah, we are going to implement, at the first stage, we are going to implement these two, the canals in the Colombo Wetland Complex. Then we can doing this implementation to the whole country, through the whole country.
Which means it is being implemented at different regions in the country, right?
Yeah, we can.
So I believe the government is playing a quite important role to sell these projects to different parts in your countries. So one of the participants comments that your example is an interesting and sustainable nature-based solution practice. It is really a place to your project. Well done. So any other questions? Feel free to leave your questions in the chat box. So if no, let's give a big hand to Indani. Thank you very much for your inspiring inspirations. I think this is kind of perfect nature-based solution to solve many problems in river conservation projects in your countries and other regions in Asia, I think. So thank you very much, Indani. So according to the schedules,